The backgrounds are really for us.
All right. Well, there you go. It's fucking recording. So you happy?
I don't even know.
Get on with it while I try to figure out how to add a background to my.
I don't even know what episode it is, boys. Is this 17?
17. I think this is 17.
Fuck me.
Holy shit.
Colette, catching on to the fact that we are, and this is amateur hour, man, for sure. This is not going to be a crowning achievement for your CV, being on this podcast, I think. But we're glad you're here. And by the way, it's episode 17. Colette's here to hang out with us.
I'm so excited.
Look, we'll fix it.
It's a good number.
It's a great, 17. It is 16 more than we thought we would get to. It's a technology episode. Dave is having, he's really,
But on the plus side,
There you go. On the plus side.
On the plus side.
At least there's that.
It's going to come.
At least we have this going for it.
As often as Dave references his own articles.
And buys his own t-shirts.
It's episode 17. We're talking about technology. Collette Alexander is here, who is Collette, you're going to have to do it. You're a technology person.
I am a technology person. What am I supposed to do? Introduce myself?
No, you can if you want. We don't do it.
Am I a technology person? I don't know.
No, are you a technology person? Like, what does a technology person even mean?
I don't know. I work with humans that work with technology.
Excellent.
I do too, I guess. And so does Dave.
So I think what we're saying is we're all technology people.
Yeah. I like that.
I see what you did there.
We're all technology people.
So Colette, let's start with interesting non-work stuff.
Yeah.
You've got there's the talent, right? So I guess if we did the NoFX final tour for our field trip, and clearly El Jefe's the talent in NoFX. So I feel like we've got some talent on the pod today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good. Yeah. You're the talent. I don't know which one of us gets the.
We know.
Yeah, I think we know.
We know. It's the lumberjack in the overalls.
Yeah.
It's in this operation. Perfect.
It's the fucking brawny guy. Wasn't it brawny like the toilet paper guy? Did you guys ever? Is that a thing anywhere else in the world? Like there was this guy. He was a lumberjack and he was on toilet paper. Look at people.
Was he also? No, he had a beard. Did he have a beard or was he bald?
I'm looking this up.
I think
Ben is right here. Right.
But I thought
Bronny was the awesome new Lakers draft pick.
Oh no, he doesn't have a fucking beard. That's some bullshit. My whole life has been a lie.
Yeah, he doesn't have a beard. He's bald, right?
No, he's not. He has a luscious head of hair.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, he looks like a lumberjack though. He's got like red flannel.
Back in the day, he had a mustache, like the like a Tom Selleck mustache.
Tom Selleck, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's gone now.
Well, I could unbutton. Well, I don't have any buttons, but ordinarily I'd go Magnum PI for you guys just to round out the old Tom Selleck look. Listen, Colette. What we do. We talk about who we've been listening to, and new tattoos. I don't think any of us have. Well, I don't know. Dave's been on a roll.
I saw Dave's new tattoo.
Yeah, weren't you both in like Portugal or something?
Yeah.
Just last week.
What's in Portugal besides port and like good food?
The man.
Well, not much now that Colette and I have left, I guess.
Why were you in Portugal? Tell me about Portugal.
Well, let's let Colette introduce herself first, and then we'll talk about Portugal, maybe. So
Oh God.
we never gave her the
Okay.
chance.
Yeah, I'm Colette. I work in tech, I guess. That's my most
You are a
recent career.
technology person. The truth
I am a
comes out.
technology person. I work with SREs and which stands for Site Reliability Engineer, which sort of keeps the internet running. They sort of keep things
Cheers.
moving at a lot of technology companies. Like I worked at a lot of places. Probably the most well-known place I worked at is Spotify. I worked there for like 4.5 years, but I've worked kind of in tech for the last like 10 years or something. And before that, I was a professional cellist in rock bands, which we were talking about earlier. And yeah, that's me.
Collette, I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
This podcast is on Spotify. Now, you may not know the answer, so just make something up. It's reasonable. But other than making our podcast good, is there anything else we can do to increase our visibility? This is not going to be good.
On Spotify?
Oh, yeah, 100%. How do we get a Joe Rogan sort of deal?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess you'd have to be as much of an asshole as him. I don't think I'm
Yeah.
but
Step one.
Spotify isn't doing big podcast deals anymore. I don't know if you know this, but they kind of have retreated from their buy all the content, all the podcast content strategy recently.
It wasn't the money maker they thought it was going to be.
I think it didn't. I think it didn't go. I think it hasn't netted the amount of subscriptions that they thought it would necessarily.
Dreams. I guess we can find our jobs, boys.
You guys have amazing t-shirts though. Like I'm gonna get a t-shirt. I feel like your merch is very good. I would lean into the merch. That's what all the musicians have to do now that they don't make money off of their music anymore anyways. So.
Absolutely.
We're doing it.
Yep, there you go.
The shirt.
Unfortunately, we're not good at making money off of our merch. We're good at making the merch. Funny part is that
means
I haven't figured that one out yet.
I'm pretty good at fucking it up. What have you been listening to, Colette?
Oh gosh, I prepared for this today. So the new Alan Sparhawk album, very good. I don't know if you guys know who Alan Sparhawk is. He was in a band called Low and with his wife Mimi, and then Mimi passed away, and so Alan just released this incredible record. That's like the first thing he's released since she passed away. It's really gorgeous. I love it. It's very like it's heavily processed, like electronic-y kind of stuff. Yeah, that's been the one thing I've been listening to the most lately. And then there's just the classics like MC5 in honor of them being inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yesterday.
Hey,
nobody, I don't think refers to the Vandals, who are behind me a long time ago, as beautiful, heavily processed music. It is.
Yeah.
There's a process. It's about like this podcast, though. I recommend it. The Vandals we saw them.
We did.
In Rudlick. They are as old as we are. It's great.
Maybe older.
Maybe. Yeah.
So what have you been listening to, Ben, while you've been moonlighting as a mechanic today?
Yeah.
I started with some reggae because I thought this is it's going to be a pretty good day. We'll chill out for a little bit. And then I did the Punk and Drublick playlist when I started swearing, well, a lot at the car. I'm telling you guys, that Co-Defendants show, I said last time we recorded Co-Defendants, I've been listening to them again. I'm in. I'm on board. I'm going to start wearing a suit around.
I saw you in a suit last week.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Well, let's call it a sport coat.
That's twice in 2 weeks, Ben.
I'm going to put a lot of things in my coat.
This guy cleans up nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. No new tattoos, guys. I got nothing.
Disappointing. Ron, what are you listening to?
So behind me, I got Rise Against. I've been listening to them a lot. Just kind of feeling that right now. And I guess, if this comes out this week and my math is correct, this will be the last show before the election in the United States. So I just have to say, get out and vote for people if you are in the United States.
Yep.
Unless you're on the other side, in which case the election's been canceled, you should stay home.
Or look, if you're Dave, fly in and vote illegally.
And which is
that like a few times, I'd say.
People are worried about that thing.
We'll let you know which states you need to get to.
Well, I'm curious which is the other side, Ron, because like if I'm not mistaken, when we were
Rise Against, you probably know which side I'm talking about.
When we were in hey, I don't know, but when we were in LA, Ron, did you or did you not drive us straight into the middle of a Trump rally? Did you?
That is correct, actually. We did. On the way to the NoFX show.
I was right in the middle of it.
There was into the middle of a Trump caravan.
There was people with flags and full wraps on their car, and it was I was living it. And then I was actually in Mississippi and Texas, and there was kind of no debate which side some of those folk are on. So I don't. Good luck. Good luck to all of our American listeners over the next couple of weeks.
I just hope everybody has a good time.
Yeah, I hope everybody has fun.
Yeah.
Colette and I talked about this. Colette is one of the most learned people I know about US politics.
Oh God. That can't be true.
No,
I don't know.
We did have quite a long conversation about this though.
We did.
Yeah.
Mostly about how sad it all is.
It's terribly sad
right now.
That's a whole other podcast.
It really is.
You got any new tattoos?
I don't. I got robbed the other day.
No, you didn't.
By someone with new tattoos?
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't see them.
Oh.
Yeah, my house got ransacked while I was out of town. So
no. That sucks.
Yeah, it's all good. It happens from time to time.
Did they steal?
Like a player like I do, you know what I mean? Like they're always coming after me.
Yeah. Did they steal any left-handed guitars?
You know what? They walked right by my brand new guitar and I was shocked. They left a lot of stuff that I was surprised. They mostly were going after jewelry and purses.
I don't think they're sending their best. Rough. When the ransackers are coming in.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
It's all good. No tattoos. What about you, Dave?
I've actually been leaning right into NoFX since the show because I've been doing a bit of driving around with the kids, and they thought they're still struggling to understand how work involves 3 days of music festival. It just doesn't really compute too much. So, and speaking of Spotify, there's some cool Spotify playlists that have emerged, like the full set list from the whole 3 nights. So you want to go and re-listen to 110 or 120 odd NoFX songs in order or shuffle. You know, Spotify's got that feature as well. And
it's not going to have that one song though, right?
Just with the kids in the car. And I tell you what, if there's something that I've worked a lot on with the kids over the last week or so, it's their correct use of colorful language is coming along quite nicely.
The strategic use of the word fuck.
It's not overly strategic. It's a lot. It's a
liberal use of the word fuck.
It's the geographical presence rule, right? Like I have a 4 and a 2-year-old and I'm basically like waiting because we always swear in front of them. I'm just waiting to explain to them like, okay, you can say the word, but you can only say it here. You can't say it at school. If you say it at school, you're going to get in trouble, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's in moderation, including moderation is what I say. Yeah.
Doesn't sound like from your from you looking like you were going to miss this episode today, Ben. I'm not sure moderation would have been high up with you today.
No,
the swears to non-swear ratio is probably
It's way in favor of this fucking guy.
So let's
All right.
Let's get on rails. So so Colette, maybe what were you doing in Portugal last week, and then we can sort of try and make some sense of this crazy world of software and tech.
Yeah, what was I doing in Portugal? So there's a group of people called the Resilience huh?
Nothing. Go ahead.
There's called the Resilience Engineering Association. And they are I feel like the two people who are like heavily involved in it that are like probably the grandfathers of resilience engineering or the fathers of resilience engineering as it were are Eric Hollnagel and Dave Woods. We call them the dads. So they can't agree, we say like the dads are still fighting, the dads are fighting.
That Dave program is like tier 3, maybe tier 2.
No, not 2, 3.
Well,
you're not a 2? I think he'd be at least a 2.
A tier 2 Dave? Or
Dave is
I mean, what we're saying though is Dave is sort of like an uncle to
prove it. Yeah, because you studied with Sid, right?
Yeah. So there's a long running thing on the pod about this tiered classification system, and Ben, as far as I know, we've never actually explained it, so it's still a bit of a mystery.
Would you like to?
But yes, so the idea, so let's not put people too much out of their misery. But yes, there is Eric and Dave, the godfathers, if you like, of this whole thing.
Yeah, and so there's an association, and they normally have like a meeting every 2 years. That's like a symposium where everybody comes together and does talks and like produces papers or whatever. The last symposium happened last year in Nice, and so the next one's happening next year in Brazil, I guess. And so but they decided to do this thing because resilience engineering is 20 years old this year. So 20 years ago, a book was produced from the first meeting that they ever had, the first symposium that ever occurred. I think it's called like Resilience Engineering Concepts and Precepts, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
So, oh God, I feel like I'm getting quizzed. Anyways, they decided to have this 20th anniversary thing. They're gonna like write another book that's like 20 years on. Where are we at? What have we done? And yeah, so they invited some people to come and talk about what to write and I guess now we're signed up. We've been voluntold.
Yeah, so this they is actually we, Colette, about writing. And so, Ben, I'm not sure you've been one of these symposiums, but this is another one of those crazy events that you actually submit an application to speak at. Like they don't just ring you up and say, can you come along? So it might be why you haven't.
Yeah.
Just
one of many illustrious events I've been uninvited from, I think.
But no, and I was there. So Colette and I were hanging out last week. I guess talking all things resilience with a bunch of other folk.
So how did you get involved with this REA?
With the crazy people? With all these crazy resilience engineering people? Yeah, so when I worked at Spotify, that's when I started working in like reliability, like as a sort of subset of the technology field. Before that, I was just like your plain old engineering manager person. And then, so we had all these problems with things breaking. It was in a part of Spotify that was like what I call the enterprise part of Spotify. So they build, sort of the products for artists and labels and publishers and stuff, and there just hadn't been the same like level of support and focus from the organization on like the stuff that they were building. And so I was asked as like part of my project work at the company to like help improve the reliability of those systems. And, you know, it'd be sort of like somebody coming in and being like, I don't know what the equivalent is, but basically like somebody coming in and being like, okay, now make this group of 100 people more safe. So I was a little bit like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And I did a lot of, there's like a lot of sort of what I would call bog standard stuff that's done in tech. But one of the things, smart things that I did was that I reached out to a guy named John Allspaw, who used to be the CTO of Etsy and, also like invented something called DevOps. He's sort of like famous in the tech world for a lot of things. But he had a consulting firm at the time, he still does, called Adaptive Capacity Labs, and I asked them to come in and work with us. And so he taught me how to do in-depth incident analysis, and a bunch of other people there, and it was really a great experience. And I got so into this kind of all the concepts that he was teaching, they were very practical, hands-on, that I sort of started dipping my toe into like reading some papers. And like then I went to Lund to get my master's of human factors and system safety at the program there. So I just finished that this year. I flew out to Sweden in June to get my degree.
Nice.
And
Congrats.
thanks. And so, yeah, so now I'm like deep in the safety nerddom shit.
Welcome. Yeah. Like, I'm super, like, something you said is kind of interesting to me. Would you shut up for a second? Sorry, my dog is really interested in this conversation. It's like
the intruder coming in doing shit, and Ron's like, listen.
Oh, hey, I forgot something. I'm just gonna grab this real quick. Don't mind me. No, so you said you were hired to come in and improve the reliability of the enterprise system, and I'm obviously paraphrasing.
I was already there, and it was like sort of like
go in and do this.
One of the people that was there, and so my boss was like, "Hey, this is a problem. Can you fix it?" It was actually my boss's boss, so it was even more intimidating. And I was like, "Sure."
But like the way you went about it, like, so you hired John and adaptive capacity.
Well, that was actually like towards the end. So I did a bunch of stuff, but I like the first thing I did was I kind of created like a working group of representatives from kind of all over the org that were different types of engineers, right? So we had like data engineers and front-end engineers and back-end engineers. And I kind of got them all together, and we kind of started meeting on a regular cadence and would talk about kind of the opportunities that we saw, or examine some things maybe that had happened, and kind of look at, hey, like how do we support this, like at the sort of engineering layer of the org. So that's kind of where we started.
It was super interesting to me because like you ended up at a place where to solve a problem, you improved your ability to learn from problems. Right?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get there? And like, tell me about that. Cause that's a way, that's not a common approach that I see, especially in like safety. Like we just like, hey, let's do a hazard analysis or something like that.
Come on, Ron, don't give yourself too much credit. You just go, let's hand out some t-shirts and coffee cups and put a few posters up. And go,
exactly.
And go
if
to
we
lunch.
got people to care more, that would probably solve it. Yeah. Did you actually try that? Like get the labels, and did you get the software to care more?
How many people have held handrails by weight is what I'm really
so in tech John likes to call them shallow metrics, right? So a lot of people like to do things like incident count, or mean time to recovery is a very common one, which is basically like from the moment that you're having an incident and then the incident is over, like how much time has elapsed, right? And then you get the mean of that over the course of, say, a month or something. And then you're measuring that constantly because you want your mean time to recovery to improve. I mean,
Ron didn't pay his power bill.
My light just went out. That's really weird.
I was gonna say, did your dog get mad and turn out the lights on you?
Dog's like, that's it. I've had enough.
One's in the safe room now.
Yeah.
And
that's
I feel like that's like it's maybe not the equivalent of a poster, but it's like it's just stupid. There are all these stupid metrics that people try to like use as some kind of target to improve by. And like I like pulled some numbers. Like I was like kind of looking through things and like tried to pull some numbers, and like it was exhausting, first of all, to like pull them together. But then secondly, like none of them really meant any, like I pulled some and I like looked at some other senior, like very senior engineers that I had like helping me. And I was like, this doesn't mean anything. Like none of this means anything. And I think it was the idea of having the rich kind of qualitative data of the in-depth incident analysis that really kind of struck me as being potentially valuable. I mean, it was still a guess, right, that we were gonna find value from it, but I really like as a practice, it's been transformative everywhere I've used it at this point now.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah. I don't know, like, has anyone else like seen that approach? Because it to me, like, from the outside looking in at what's going on in tech, there's a lot of really cool conversation, like the LFI, learning from incident sort of movement and everything like that. That's like, hey, let's improve how we learn from these things as a way to improve our overall processes and all that. Like, is there anything equivalent to that in just general safety?
Well, I think we're trying. Like, I think we're trying in sort of more industrial safety applications. I mean, we talk about learning a lot. We talk about it, and I guess this idea that that Colette sort of explained about, really trying to deeply understand problems. I think we've got all the language in safety, but we still seem to struggle. And I'm sort of wondering how much of that is. So, like Edgar Schein sort of says, one of the hardest things about learning is unlearning, like unlearning. And I think the challenge, what I see in tech is it's moving really fast. And I think there's a few things at play there. I think it's naturally or needs to be, or by what it is, quite innovative, right? And relatively young in some sense, the software industry. And so maybe there's just less unlearning that needs to go on. And industrial safety's got just 100 years of baggage, right? That we just can't seem to break away from. Like, it's kind of exciting to watch the way that tech has just grabbed a concept and just gone, bang, let's do it. And I guess it's not everywhere, but I don't know, Ron,
Definitely
just
not everywhere.
yeah, definitely not everywhere.
Like, it would be so nice if like tech had grabbed the concept and ran with it. I hope that it does in like the next 5 years. Like that is certainly like my goal, and why I want to like stick around and do some work in the field still, but we have a long way to go. I think there's also this thing, John and I have talked about it, which is like we don't yet have the regulation that a lot of other places have, right? We do have like we have like compliance sort of frameworks and stuff that we use, but they're really like sales tools, frankly. Like all of those things are to help improve sales and to sort of have some kind of independent arbiter tell, for example, if you're in enterprise sales, you want an independent firm to do your SOC 2 auditing, and you want some enterprise to believe that you have passed your SOC 2 audit because it's really important for sales. But it's about like inserting a level of trust, but there is no like real regulation yet. And like it'll be like post CrowdStrike, like it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think a lot of us are kind of waiting to see what is going to be determined as the big one.
Yeah.
And how will it impact us from a regulatory standpoint?
That's super interesting, because a lot of people in safety will point to the presence of regulation as the barrier to why they can't get started in this space. And you're not saying necessarily the opposite, but you are saying that, hey, we don't have regulation, it's still hard, at least.
It's still hard for all the reasons that Dave said, because like everybody has an idea of what good looks like. And most of it is like most leadership at most companies is very like, I call it like red button, like I'm going to push a red button and you're going to do the thing, right? I'm going to push a red button and you're going to do the thing, right? I'm going to tell you to do it harder, longer, better, cheaper, higher quality, and you're just going to do it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not really super focused on systems thinking, and it's not really super focused on that's leadership like anywhere at any company. And so it's like I found the largest barrier to gaining adoption of some of these practices in tech is really about convincing people in leadership positions that it's worth doing, that it's worth investing the time, that it's going to make a difference. Also, it's hard because like how do you provide evidence that learning has occurred? Like that is a really tough when someone's coming to me and they're like, you want two engineers to spend 2 weeks, because that's often how long it takes us. 2 to 3 engineers, 2 weeks on a full time on an incident analysis. What am I getting for that money? Like, how do you justify that expense? And that's a real thing. Like, I understand that need to want to know that it's worthwhile.
And I think, yeah, and I think you mentioned stupid metrics or shallow metrics, and I think it's that idea, because we're seeing that even in the space that we play a little bit more, the industrial side, like learning. How do you show that? And then so people say, oh, let's count stuff. So the number of learning reviews per million hours worked, and then it becomes this really transactional safety work type activity. That's, oh, I need to do a learning review this month. I haven't done my learning review yet. Let me do it. But actually thinking more about outcomes instead of sort of just these output metrics and going, okay, well, let's talk about the number of, I don't know, meaningful operational improvements that we've implemented, and then define what an operational improvement actually is. And then maybe start hopefully showing leaders that, yeah, we did spend 2 weeks doing this, but let me show you the 3 or 4 things that we learnt and are now able to do differently, to basically improve work, whether it's on any one of those points that you mentioned, efficiency, quality, reliability, whatever those things are. But I think in the absence of showing that, it's really hard to keep getting support for just throwing resources at something that's really kind of like abstract.
It's kind of funny too, and Dave, maybe you see this too in like mining and some of those other industries, but 100% in healthcare, and any healthcare people within our 9 listeners will know this.
11.
But 11 listeners.
We're at 11. We're double digits.
I always laugh when you say that because I'm like, I'm one of those listeners.
Well, okay, so we're back to 10, because if you're not on it,
still,
it doesn't count.
Colette, you still have to go into all of the to Apple and to Spotify and download.
Like mark as played for us. If you could do that, that'd be great.
But one of those industries look at technology as evidence or an artifact of that effort, right? So it's, I think in the tech industry, you're looking outside at these other things at learning and human factors and how we create reliability that way. And with all these sort of high reliability industries, or industries that ought to be, they look at, I mean, if you go into a hospital, there are conversations about technological software solutions all fucking day, all the time, and they are convinced it's the savior in a lot of ways, when in reality we're still firing nurses for making mistakes, right? And we're failing to learn and do some of these basic things. And aviation is the same way. I mean, it is, you're implementing safety management in this sort of global way, and a big piece of evidence that you've done it is software. And I'm always just, I don't know, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. I'm always curious about how that works, how people believe that the software is the solution
Well, and I mean, the crazy thing is if you went and talked to the people who are building that software, they would be terrified that anybody thought that, right? Just like, the first person you want to ask about, like, should we vote on, like, somebody was like, oh, shouldn't we have online voting? Like, the first people to come to the fore when that, like, started getting thrown around 4 years ago in the US were SREs who were like, absolutely not. No. The internet was a mistake, and we know that. Like, we live that statement every day, but please don't put voting on it. And I think it is a very technology is just adding another layer of complexity to the already very complex socio-technical systems that we're all living in and trying to make our way through, right? And I think often, sadly, it's not every single engineer has an awareness when they're working on the software that they're working on of the level of dependency chains that exist for it, right? I guarantee you that nobody who worked at CrowdStrike, like, I'm sure that there were engineers at CrowdStrike who were like scared about quality and reliability and all of those things. I guarantee you that, like, I don't know, maybe they could, but it would have been very hard to sit down and predict the chain of events that occurred when that outage happened and all of the things that kind of ran off of it, because when you go to work every day and you have, like, this small team that you're on and you're producing a small feature that contributes to a whole thing, that it's like it's impossible to have that level of awareness of the whole system, right?
Yeah. As I get older and learn a little bit about software and all, and and the kind of, to quote Dave Woods, the tangled layered networks, like, of all this, right? I like, what resonates with me more and more is Jurassic Park and the
Why is it
like, we're so excited about whether or not we don't stop to think whether we should, like. And I think I see that so much in safety right now. Everybody's like, hey, well, we have AI. We can do all this stuff with AI. Yeah, we can, but, like, should we? Like, does that even make sense? What is that going to do? What new problems is that going to create for us? They're just like, oh, but look, it's pretty and you can do things and it's fancy and it has buttons. Like,
Velociraptor. It's
and I
amazing.
think, so speaking of Jurassic Park, Colette's got this super awesome tattoo of a dinosaur eating a sun, just for the record.
So it's not a dinosaur, it's a lion. It's a lion.
It looked like a
Yeah, it's a
T-Rex.
green lion eating the sun. Yeah.
It's a
all kinds of
Walking
animals in
walking around
Australia,
on-
and
I
I
didn't
mean,
know-
it does look a little bit like, hold on.
I don't know. They walk. I didn't think lions walked around on two legs like that. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, well,
and when they
so
jump, they
it's
get on
okay.
two legs.
It's
Have you
so
not seen it at a nature show?
Here,
Nature
let me
show.
do the-
It's fine.
It's all of my tattoos, and I have a lot of them, most of them are based on, like, alchemical imagery. So this is the green lion eating the sun, is like a famous image in alchemical art. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
If you're listening to the podcast, what's happening right now is all of us have stopped doing anything useful.
Yeah. Anyway, the second point I was going to make, which I'm really keen, Colette, to get your views, because you sort of shared with me that a lot of your roles has been come in when things are all fucked up and try to make sense and sort some stuff out. Just to use my own language, you put it more eloquently than that. But I think the thing in safety and software, I think just the complexity of the systems, like you talked about, the dependencies and the interfaces and all of this, whether you're trying to think about, industrial safety or software, and we can't, and there's so many, unknowables. There's these things can be really hard to make sense of. I'd be really keen to hear the way that, what your general approach to that is, like in your leadership roles. Like, what's your general approach to trying to make sense of, I guess, current state of systems. Like, how do you guys do that, or you do that?
So my playbook is, it's been funny because I've only been thinking about this recently. I never like considered that I had a playbook until I realized that like I definitely have a playbook. And it's essentially like you go like the feedback loops need to like there needs to be strong feedback loops to both product and engineering. In my world, often what we find when at least when I walk into a room and it's like, oh, reliability has been struggling or it hasn't mattered as much, and like my first stop is to go talk to product management folks and people who are like leading in product and to understand how they value reliability when it comes to what customers are experiencing. And my playbook is usually involves some kind of like right now it's like around synthetics, but like it could be kind of anything that shows you what the customer is actually experiencing, some kind of what are the proxies that we have available to us to understand what customers are experiencing in in production. A lot of people will come in and say, oh, we need to improve our testing or we need to improve our dev environment so that we can, and it's like, no, I'm like definitely like test and prod or live a lie person, which is a line from Charity Majors, who runs an observability company called Honeycomb. Anyways, if we can get these signals, we call them synthetic tests, of like an actual full end-to-end user experience, and we can test that constantly, then we're getting a signal to and the engineers are looking at it, and when they make changes that might fail or get slower, or they might get some kind of signal, right, that something's wrong. Then the engineers can react to it and learn from it. And also when we use it as a signal to tell us about what our uptime is, when we all kind of believe that this is a valuable set of signals about what our uptime is, and we all have an agreement of what it is, then as a team, engineers can decide, okay, like this hasn't been looking great, or like we're trending into like the yellow and we should be green. So we're going to like take a step back and look at what we've been up to and maybe plan something different for the next 2 weeks of work. A lot of what I find is that like usually it's that teams are working on features a lot. They have high production pressure, right? It's very stereotypical and like the Rasmussen like boundary, right? It's just we're pushing it and pushing it because we've got all of this stuff to get done. And we've made a bunch of sacrifices maybe in our architecture. We've done some things that have like pushed us into this area where we are operating like at saturate, like very close to the edge. And so my goal is to first like illuminate, okay, what are the signals that you're operating close to the edge? How does that directly tie to the user's experience? Because at the end of the day, if we're going to justify like stopping a bunch of work so we can work on reliability things, we need to know that it's providing the user value, right? And then the second thing is really like, okay, if you're constantly firefighting, like if there's just constant incidents or constant little things all the time, then like let's try to quantify that in terms of like how much time are you missing from being able to work on other stuff because you're just fighting all of these fires constantly. That's usually what like a deteriorated state on a team would look like, at least from tech perspective. I don't know, are there any corollaries?
I love that. That's my new playbook. So thank you. We're gonna
furiously taking notes.
Just what's going on in our industry at the moment. We're going to trademark the fuck out of all that. This is Collette's. This is now the 4 C's. The 4 Colettes, right? So I love the way you started with user experience. So for us, we're really trying hard to get people to start with the work and work as done, right? Just understand, like you said, like understand what our customers are actually experiencing. And the parallel is understand, what your workers are actually experiencing in your organization and kind of start with that. I love the way you said, what's a valuable set of signals that can help us understand reliability. And, we still in safety talk about what are those valuable set of signals that can help us see the presence of we talk about capacity and a bunch of stuff, but help us see where we might actually be safe. And then also love the way that you talked about short interval work planning, like what are the engineers working on for the next 2 weeks? In safety, a lot of times we fuck around and take 18 months to develop a PowerPoint presentation, and we actually don't do anything that meaningfully improves anything. So the idea is, what can we actually do in the next 2 weeks to actually improve the work experience for the people doing it? And and then the fourth point, which is the fourth C, and we just need to come up with some words for each of these, is, when you talk about people working on features, right? Doing a heap of work on, features. It's like when we get tied up in safety, working on safety work, right? And we're saturated with doing safety work stuff that really doesn't connect in any useful, meaningful way to the people who are doing the work, right? So we got this awesome 4-step plan now, Colette, that we are. You can quit your job now. You can come across into our world. And
That's it.
We need 5. I think we need 5 C's, because there's one other one in there. Dave likes to write all the things down. I can hold one thing in my head here, but I think something that's really scary for a lot of organizations is this concept of small scale experimentation. And it could be so much talk about change management bullshit because we come up with ideas and then try to do all of them all at once. And that's safety or otherwise. But I think safety folks struggle with that too, is they have this thing. And instead of experimenting with a group that maybe has capacity or is fully staffed or is really experienced, we just scattergun it and hope for the best. And so having that, you called it something way cooler than just an experiment, but this sort of environment of it looks like a user would see it, and it's all the time you can see what's happening. And I think allowing people who do the work the time and space to evaluate stuff before it goes full tilt boogie in the organization is.
Well, I like that's the observability piece, and we're not going to give Ron an opportunity to talk again about his PhD and talk about.
Bro, I was already about to bring that up like 10 minutes ago.
But I think
what was your PhD on? I want to know.
Come on,
fucking hell. All right, just listen to every one of the 16 episodes, and you'll get the whole decade played back.
It was on joint activity.
Okay.
So it's like piggybacking on Laura McGuire's work. Who was at in Portugal as well. So I'm sure you know who she is. But no. So one of the things, though, back to the 5 C's or whatever we're gonna call it. But like one of the overriding principles that is just, I mean, it makes sense because in software, it is what it is, right? You're selling a product, right, to customers, or you're getting a product to customers. I think that mindset that alone is very interesting and revolutionary for safety, because the software product is something that's supposed to support people doing something. And I think if we took the mindset in safety that we are developing a work system that's supporting people dealing with complex work, and then how we do it is those 5 C's, like I think that alone is a really critical and important mindset that I don't see in safety at all. We just think of safety as just this thing we're doing, like that's separate from work or whatever, when we're actually, we're developing something that's supposed to support people who are dealing with day in, day out problems that, arise from the complexity of just work.
Well, when they tell you it's buggy, you have to believe them and fix the fucking thing.
And I think that point you mentioned, Ben, before about experimenting, and Ron, you're talking about that. Like I love in the software world that you actually have UAT, like acceptance testing environments to go, does this actually do what we think it's meant to do before we push something into prod, right? So even just
but even that is totally not real, because users then will end up using the thing a way that you did not intend them to use it, and they can break your system from doing that, right? So like all the UAT on the planet is not going to save your butt when somebody, starts like retrying, like pressing a button over and over again because they want something now. And like suddenly you're DDoSed by like everybody refreshing something. The latency just gets worse and worse, and then suddenly, yeah.
It's like my parents using tech. You say like, if I push the button harder, it's going to respond. It's going to respond differently than if I push it softly.
There are so many analogies throughout so many pieces of tech on that.
Yeah.
How do you guys know when like programs that you're rolling out are actually being used?
We don't care about that, Colette.
So, I mean, honestly, real talk, like the only way that we evaluate like effectiveness is, are people following it? And if they're not, it's the people's fault. They are they should be following. Yeah. Like there's no like, hey, wait a minute, maybe if they're not following our procedure or whatever, that procedure sucks or that program sucks and we need to do something different. No, there's none of that.
Oh, well, maybe there's none where Ron is because he just tells people that care more.
That red button thing you were talking about. Yeah, that's basically my whole ball game.
And I think, but it's not entirely true, Ron. Like, if our incident rates go down, then the whole thing's a big fucking success. And if our incident rates go up, the whole thing's a big fucking success because we've got a better reporting culture. Or if the incident rates change in a different way, we just go, oh, that's because it's not related to the thing that we're rolling out, which was actually really successful. So we can tell ourselves a good narrative no matter what happens. Is I think
misguided metrics.
So I told my team something the other day that I'm still like kind of getting on board with, but I think I'm there, which is like sometimes it's just vibes. Like there is such a desire in my world for like metrics that I can track to know whether I've accomplished the thing or whether my team has done. And we have OKRs and we do all of that stuff, right? And the first thing I said to them was, well, qualitative data is still data. It might not be quantitative data, but it's still data. Can you guess what my thesis was? It was a qualitative. Anyways, whatever.
Mine too.
And
don't get Ron started again, Colette.
And the other thing is like, I just like, how do I know if I'm doing a good job? Vibes, man. Vibes the vibes are going to get worse before they get better. But can I start to see the vibes improving around this sort of stuff at the company? Okay, then like, I'm going to go with that.
And tech people, you would think would grasp that because so many new ideas are just vibes, man. Like you start Uber because it feels like it's probably going to be a good idea, right? Or like
they're data driven, bro. Like, the
vibe,
bad break things, and I don't know.
There was an Australian movie, and dig it out. You watch it, you'll like it. The Castle, which talks a lot about the vibe. So our Australian listeners will really get the whole vibe thing. Good movie for an Australian movie.
That's a really good.
But speaking of what you said before, Colette, about online voting, right? You'll probably be able to look this up as a case study. The last Australian census, which is, I don't know what you guys do in the States, but every 10 years or whatever it is, you try to take stock of how many people are in the country and living in which house and how old and what jobs, and so it's really important that everyone kind of does it on the same day. And there was this whole government department that set up this entire online environment so that everyone could, didn't have to fill out a form. They could actually go online, log in on this day, and do the census, and the whole fucking system went down. Right? You got one fucking job. You got one job.
Go down. That I could have told you that story before it happened. That obviously that's what happened with healthcare.gov, right? Yeah. Anyways.
So so it's interesting that it's tough. I really like the saying. I don't know where it came from in your world, but you guys talk about, Ron might have even mentioned it on one of the podcasts, the idea that we can't believe the internet went down. I think, were you telling me about DNS records or something?
I was
Colette,
talking
last
about
week?
DNS when we were
Okay.
getting drunk in
Well,
Porto.
you can tell the story, but this idea is we should be more surprised that things work rather than surprised when things don't.
That's Richard Cook saying, he's like, you're not surprised that things are down. You're surprised that they were ever up at all. And like that is the true like motto of an SRE like in the modern day internet.
But I think we'd
the
come
thing
into
that
it.
actually makes me sad though is I don't think in safety we have an equivalent mindset. When you really study work, like it's really hard to not develop that mindset and like be like, holy crap, I cannot believe we're not killing more people. But like most safety people like have no conception of that at all, like how close we are to danger on a day-to-day basis.
And I think that's this kind of like thing, what's happening when nothing's happening, right? Like just all the actions and decisions and assessments and that of people, with resource constrained, with just making shit work, right? And I think you mentioned Eric Holdnagel earlier, just getting more curious about, how are our people actually making our stuff work? Is kind of cool. But I think we come at it the same as Colette. Richard Cook's got that presentation that he gave at Velocity around software systems, and it's a really cool one to have a watch at.
Basically, anything from Richard Cook is highly recommended.
Yeah, the good country doctor, one of my favorite students.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah. Well, if I'm going to take some things away, maybe from the tech side of things, it's sort of being unafraid to experiment, right? To do things in pockets of the organization, get some vibes, get the vibe check.
Yep.
Folks. And really just, I think approaching work with that sense of wonder, like, holy fuck, there's no way, right? There's no way surgery should work. There's no way shiny metal tubes should take us from place to place. And they do. And if we start with that sense of like, holy shit, this is bananas, I think maybe that's an easier, well, I don't know that it's easier, but it's a better starting point for getting curious.
Yeah. I think it's an easy through point from there. Like, okay, like I'm thinking like, hey, there are so many ways that construction workers can kill themselves on a daily basis. It is shocking that they're not. So A, I should probably get more curious about how that's happening. B, I should probably get more involved in helping them do that on a daily basis. Right. What's that?
Standing phone.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, C, I should get rid of Ben's. Like that's probably the sixth C.
Can I ask a weird question? How often is it that people who are working in safety worked in the thing that they are making safe? Like, because I think an interesting fact, right, about site reliability engineering, at least in the organization I'm at now, and a lot of organizations, is that they're all engineers. Like everybody has engineering experience. Everybody's built software before, and often we are building software that helps like enable other teams to operate more reliably, right? That's like essentially our mission, right? So like in that sense, I think we have a lot of like connective tissue with the folks who are at the sharp end, as it were. And we ourselves are at the sharp end because we also help like do incident command, for example. But like, how is that relationship in like construction or?
I think
it happens.
It's a bit, right?
Yeah.
I'd probably say the rough rule of thumb, it's probably a 50-50 thing. Like 50% of people who work in safety have probably got frontline experience in a sort of a high hazard type of role, and they've then jumped across into safety at some point in their career. And then 50% of people, like me, have never done a day's work in their life and just sort of talk about other people doing stuff. And so I think, and that's where it's become more of a profession, right? Where people go and study it and they do it. And so then they walk onto a construction site and say, I don't know how to do your job, but my clipboard says you're doing it wrong, right? And so I guess it'll be interesting to see as software continues to take over the world and more jobs start appearing in software, that how many people start popping up in software organizations into things like reliability, head of reliability roles, and have never actually seen code in their life, right? And I think that will happen in your industry as roles get more professionalized.
I mean, it really comes back to Ron's point that you need zero safety people in the world anyway, which I think was probably episode 2. When
Yes.
Ron,
Start us off. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that, but
no, I think the direct quote was "fuck safety, make money."
no, that was like episode like 9.
That was a few episodes ago. I can't.
Yeah.
Ron
I'm still waiting on that
probably
T-shirt.
I just amplified the message. That's all.
I feel the same way about management, for what it's worth. Like,
Yeah.
I very frequently go throughout my day with like the Taylor Swift song in the back of my head, like, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Like, me, I'm the problem.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I said that at a conference, and it was a lot of old. I'm not going to say.
I started singing along, and it was a
No,
really lovely experience.
There were like 3 younger people in the audience that got the joke. In my life, and that's why I don't get invited to conferences anyway. Especially Banff, definitely not.
So I think so fuck reliability, sell subscriptions is the
Yes.
Done. We've solved.
Right.
Did we solve it?
Well, Colette solved it. We didn't really do much.
We got the 6 C's or something. Where did we land? 5?
Yeah, well, we're gonna work that up. We're gonna work that up. That's it's actually a really cool playbook. I love that.
The 5 C's of software reliability.
I think just all reliability.
That book sells itself. I'm telling you right now.
And any
precepts.
Yeah.
Ben's always left with the task of coming up with interesting episode titles that reflect song titles. So Colette, if you're in any way want to name the episode title, feel free to tell Ben what it should be.
I don't know, Ben. Should it be anti-hero?
Yes.
We have to tie it somehow to the content of the rambling, incoherent.
Yeah.
5 or 6 C's.
However many. An appropriate number of C's.
Trademark gold.
Awesome.
All right.
I think we Fletchered it.
Well, you're awesome.
I've got Fletcher. See, I was.
I know you do.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're definitely not any safer thanks to Fletcher.
No, we are not.
Colette, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for hanging out with me. It was fun.
Yeah, it's late. It's late, and hopefully your kids are asleep. And yeah, crack on. So cool. See you later.
All right. Bye.
Are we done? I was just gonna cold end it. This is fucking great.
My God.
Bye.
Yeah.